So now I'm going to talk to you about preparing for interviews. This is a really important part of the whole process. The reason is it makes you feel more confident when you go to interview. It helps to calm down those nerves, and at the end of the day you're going to actually come across a lot better if you've prepared for that interview. So first of all, what you want to do is find out a bit more about what the employer wants. The best place to go is to have a look at that job advert. And if there has been a job description attached, then have a look at that as well. And what you want to do is you want to pull out some of those key skills that they're looking for, the key experience, and what sort of person would fit for that job. The next thing you want to do is have a look at your own skills. And the first place you go is your CV. What did you put in your CV? What kind of skills do you have? And then what you want to do is just have a look at the match between what the employer is looking for and what you have to offer. I'm going to talk to you about a particular model called the CAR model, which helps you prepare for interviews, particularly interview questions where they want a lot of depth to the response and they want examples of what you've done in the past. And we talked about that in the previous section, and those interviews are those competency or behavioural interviews which you may come across. So CAR stands for context, what was the situation and the task that you were dealing with. A, action, what did you actually do? And the R is the result, what was the outcome? So an example might be an interviewer wants to find out a bit more about how you showed some calmness and assertiveness. You might talk about a situation where you were guarding a particular event or building. You would perhaps talk about what you did when you encountered that situation and then what the outcome was. So I've put a specific example for you on the website information so you can have a read through that and have a look at that and see how that works. I'm going to talk to you about different types of questions now. So first you've got your behavioural questions, which we talked a bit about before with the CAR model. When you're talking about the context of what you did, the action, what you actually did, and the result. The next type of questions are things like unusual questions, which are often there to sort of test how you respond to that question as well as looking at the content of what you say. And examples of questions like that include things like, tell me a bit about yourself, or why should we give you that job? They're open questions. It's difficult to know how much to say, but keep it fairly short and sweet and to the point. Difficult questions generally are there to look at how you cope under pressure and how you answer those questions. So difficult questions include things like, why do you want to work for this company? Or how do you deal with criticism? Or what are some of your greatest strengths and weaknesses? Those sorts of questions can often make people feel uncomfortable, but if you can answer them directly and openly and perhaps turn a negative into a positive, then that's going to help you. There are a lot more details around that in the documents online and some specific examples of those types of questions as well. I'm going to talk to you about dressing for the interview, which can be a little bit confusing these days. We don't always know whether we should dress up or dress down. I think the key thing is that you dress for the company that you're going to, dress for the industry that you're going to, and make sure that you're clean, tidy, neat, tidy hair, well groomed. If you're not sure, it's better to overdress, but keep it simple. So for example, for guys it might be just some nice pants, chinos and a shirt, and for women it might be a skirt or trousers depending on what you're comfortable with, and a nice blouse. So as long as you're nice and tidy. The other thing is, if you are a smoker, just make sure that you haven't just perhaps smoked before you go into the interview, or if you like to chew gum, best just to get rid of it before you hop into that interview. So you've come to the end of your interview. You may have been asked to ask the interviewer any questions that you may have yourself, and you can go to those prepared questions that you've already put together. And an example of something you may want to know is, what sort of team would the person work with? The other thing you might want to know is what happens next, and it's fine to ask what the next steps are in the recruitment process, or when will they be making a decision, so that you know where you stand. I think the key thing here is just be yourself, and then I will talk to you a bit further about some post-interview follow-up. exercises. So your interview is finished, you've walked away or you've turned your computer off if it's a virtual interview, and you're sort of thinking, gosh, I wonder how I went. Now this is a good opportunity to really reflect, and a good thing to do is to just try and be unemotional about the situation. Think back to the questions they asked, how you responded, did you listen, did you talk, how well were you prepared, did you manage to build a good connection with the people that you were talking to. So just have a bit of a think about those things so you can kind of look at what you can do better next time. So if you haven't heard back from the interviewer by the time that the deadline has been provided to you, then it is worth maybe a day or two after following up with them and finding out sort of how the process is tracking. If you are unsuccessful, it's really important to try to be very gracious, be very professional, and again, just thank them for their time. It's a great opportunity to ask for a bit of feedback. What could you have done differently? What were the strengths that you showed, and what could you improve on for next time?